Lady Evangeline stood frozen as the Duke announced to London's elite that she was his last choice for marriage, a public humiliation that shattered her carefully orchestrated future in an instant. But when she fled to her eccentric aunt's library and discovered forbidden knowledge, she caught the eye of a brilliant Italian professor who saw her not as society's reject, but as his intellectual equal and deepest desire. What if the worst moment of your life was actually the universe's way of saving you from a fate that would have destroyed your soul? The grand ballroom at Whitmore House sparkled like a jewelry box. 200 candles burned bright in crystal holders that hung from the tall ceiling. Lady Evangeline Ashworth stood beneath the biggest chandelier, wearing her best emerald green dress. The silk fabric caught the light and made her look like a fairy tale princess. All of London's finest people had come tonight. They wore their best clothes and jewels. The ladies held fans made of feathers. The men stood tall in their black coats. Everyone whispered and smiled, waiting for something special to happen. Evangeline's heart beat fast inside her chest. Tonight, the Duke of Harrington would ask her to marry him. Her father had promised this would happen before he died. She had practiced her smile in the mirror. She had learned all the right words to say. Everything in her life had led to this moment. The Duke stepped forward. He was tall and thin, with pale blue eyes like winter sky. His voice carried across the quiet room like a church bell. "My dear friends," he said slowly, "I must speak honestly about my marriage to Lady Ashworth." Evangeline felt her breath catch in her throat. Something was wrong. The Duke's eyes found hers across the room. In them, she saw something that made her stomach drop. Not hate, but pity. "Lady Ashworth has every good quality a duchess should have," the Duke continued. His words fell like heavy stones into still water. "But I must tell the truth. She is my last choice among all the ladies I could marry. A marriage built only on duty would not honor either of us." The room went dead silent. Evangeline felt 200 pairs of eyes staring at her. Some people looked sorry for her. Others seemed excited to see such a big disaster. Her carefully planned future crumbled like a sand castle hit by waves. But something strange happened inside her. Instead of running away crying, Evangeline felt her back grow straight. She lifted her chin high and spoke clearly. "His Grace speaks with great honesty," she said. Her voice stayed steady even though her hands shook. "I agree that duty makes a poor foundation for a meaningful life." She gave a deep curtsy to the Duke, then to everyone in the room. Then she walked through the crowd with slow, careful steps. People moved aside to let her pass. She kept her head high until she reached her carriage outside. Only then did she let the first tear fall. The next morning, Evangeline stood at the door of her Aunt Cordelia's small house. Aunt Cordelia had shocked society 30 years ago by refusing 3 marriage proposals to study old ruins instead. "My dear child," Aunt Cordelia said, wrapping Evangeline in a warm hug. "Come inside. We need to talk about the difference between living and just existing." Aunt Cordelia's library became Evangeline's safe place. The room smelled like old books and lavender tea. Tall shelves reached from floor to ceiling, packed with books about science, history, and faraway places. These were subjects that proper ladies were not supposed to read. Every morning, Evangeline curled up in the big leather chair by the window. Sunlight streamed through the glass and warmed her face as she read. She discovered amazing things about ancient Egypt and the stars in the sky. For the first time in her life, her mind felt free. "Knowledge is the only treasure no one can steal from you," Aunt Cordelia said one day. She found Evangeline reading a book about women who had done brave things. "Society can take away your money or your reputation, but they cannot take away what you learn." 3 months passed like this. Slowly, Evangeline began to feel stronger inside. Her aunt held special evening parties where smart people came to talk about art and books. These gatherings were very different from the fancy balls Evangeline used to attend. That was where she met Professor Alessandro Benedetti. He had come from Italy to study old paintings in London's museums. He was not like the English gentlemen she knew. Those men only talked about horses and hunting. Alessandro spoke about beautiful art and big ideas that made her think. "You understand these paintings in a special way," he told her one afternoon. They were looking at ancient books in the British Museum. The quiet halls echoed with their whispered voices. "Have you ever thought that your smart mind could do important work in the world?" His dark eyes sparkled with real interest when she spoke. He listened to her ideas like they mattered. This felt completely new to Evangeline. They began meeting at museums and gardens around the city. In the cool, marble halls filled with old statues, Evangeline felt like a different person. She was not Lady Ashworth, the Duke's unwanted bride. She was just Evangeline, a woman whose thoughts had value. One sunny day, they walked through the botanical gardens. Flowers bloomed in bright colors all around them. Bees hummed from rose to rose. Alessandro stopped beside a fountain where water danced in the light. In Italy, we say something special, he told her with a gentle smile. It means that going slow and careful gets you safely to the right place. Maybe your sad night at the Duke's party was really luck in disguise. Maybe it saved you from the wrong path so you could find the right one. For the first time since that terrible evening, Evangeline laughed with real joy. The sound rang out clear and bright, like silver bells in the garden air. She was beginning to understand that her greatest shame might actually be her greatest gift. The meeting happened when Evangeline least expected it. She was leaving the art museum after looking at beautiful Italian paintings with Alessandro. Her footsteps echoed on the cold marble floor as she walked toward the big front doors. There, standing between the tall white columns, was the Duke of Harrington. "Lady Ashworth," he said, taking off his hat like a proper gentleman. "I hope you are doing well." "Very well, Your Grace," she replied. Looking at him now, she felt no anger or hurt. Those feelings had disappeared like morning fog in sunlight. "And how are you?" "I find myself thinking about choices," he admitted. His pale eyes searched her face. "I have realized that my words at the party were too harsh. I should not have said them in front of so many people." Evangeline studied him carefully. For the first time, she saw past his fancy title to the real man underneath. He looked tired and uncertain. "Your Grace, I have learned something important," she said with a calm voice. "Sometimes the worst things that happen to us are really gifts in disguise. Your honesty that night hurt me, but it also freed us both. We would have made each other very unhappy." The Duke's eyebrows went up. "You seem very different from before." "I have become my true self, Your Grace. It took time and hard work, but I like the real me much better than the fake person I used to be." Just then, Alessandro appeared beside her. He had finished looking at the paintings too. "Ah, Evangeline," he said warmly, offering her his arm. His voice was full of gentle care. "Did that special painting speak to your heart like I thought it would?" The Duke watched how Alessandro's whole face lit up when he looked at Evangeline. He saw how she seemed to glow with happiness when the professor was near. "Your Grace," Evangeline said, "please meet Professor Alessandro Benedetti from Italy. Professor, this is the Duke of Harrington." The two men shook hands politely. Then the Duke left, walking away with slow, thoughtful steps. "That man hurt you once," Alessandro said quietly after the Duke was gone. "Yes, he did," Evangeline admitted. "But not anymore. He actually gave me the most wonderful gift possible. He gave me the chance to find out who I really am when nobody else is telling me what to do." That evening, they walked through the park as gas lamps flickered to life. The air smelled like roses and fresh grass. Alessandro stopped beside a fountain where moonlight turned the water to liquid silver. "Evangeline," he said, taking her hands in his warm ones. "I must go back to Italy soon. My work here is finished." Her heart felt heavy, but she had known this day would come. "But I cannot imagine my life without you," he continued softly. "Will you come with me and be my wife?" Tears of pure joy filled her eyes. "Yes," she whispered. "You offer me everything that truly matters." The little church in the hills above Florence was nothing like the grand cathedral where Evangeline once thought she would marry. Instead of hundreds of fancy guests, only Aunt Cordelia and a few of Alessandro's close friends sat in the wooden pews. Olive trees grew all around the stone building, and cypress trees reached toward the bright blue sky. The old Italian priest spoke in simple words that came from the heart, not from a fancy book. Sunlight streamed through colored glass windows and painted rainbows on the floor. "With this ring," Alessandro said in English, then repeated the same words in Italian, "I marry you not because society says we should, but because our hearts choose to become one in love and truth." Evangeline felt tears of happiness roll down her cheeks. This felt more real and beautiful than any grand ceremony ever could. 6 months later, she stood on the stone balcony of their villa overlooking the Arno River. The morning air smelled like jasmine flowers and fresh bread from the bakery down the hill. In her hands, she held papers covered with her own writing. It was her first scholarly article about women in old paintings, and it would be published in an important Italian journal. "My love," Alessandro called from his study, where he was preparing lessons for his students. "The mail has come. There is a letter from your aunt, and one with the Duke's seal on it." Evangeline opened Aunt Cordelia's letter first. Her aunt wrote about all the exciting discoveries happening in London's museums. But the Duke's letter surprised her more. "Dear Lady Benedetti," it began. I write to tell you that news of your scholarly work has reached even our closed London society. I must admit I am both surprised and impressed by what I hear of your achievements. Please accept this letter as both congratulation and apology. Congratulation for finding your true calling, and apology for nearly preventing you from discovering it. I remain, with new respect, Harrington. Alessandro read over her shoulder, his warm breath tickling her ear. It seems, he said with gentle laughter, that you have won the Duke's respect without needing his marriage proposal. Evangeline folded the letter and set it aside. Through the open windows came the sound of church bells ringing across Florence. Students walked along the cobblestone streets below, heading to the university where she now taught art history as the first woman professor. My dearest Alessandro, she said, turning in his arms to face the man who had chosen her first, not last. I am so grateful for that terrible night at the Duke's party. Without it, I might have spent my whole life being someone else's idea of who I should be, never finding out who I really am. As the sun painted the rooftops gold and pink, Evangeline knew that her greatest shame had become her greatest joy.